One of Khashoggi's friends has given a statement outside the office of the Washington Post, where the journalist was a regular contributor. Khalid Safouri wants the White House to demand answers from the Saudi government.
He never wanted to overthrow the Saudi government. He told me, I'm not an opposition. I just want some freedom for my people, and he probably died for that reason. And for that reason, I think this is not a partisan issue, and I call upon Republicans, and many Republicans spoke up, to speak up and demand that President Trump does something, because he keeps reminding us that because of him and because of America, the Saudi government stays in power. He reminded us yesterday, he said it last week and the week before, 4 times in the last couple of months. So I think it's about time for him to pull the strings and call the King of Saudi Arabia and the Crown Prince and demand answers.
Well, people have been protesting outside the Saudi embassy in London, and as international anger at Khashoggi's disappearance grows. Let's go live to Alan Fisher, though, who is at another protest in Washington, D.C. First of all, Alan, let me just put that question to you that we heard phrased by Khalid Safouri, a friend of Khashoggi. He wants the White House to demand answers from the Saudi government. Are we getting any indication that that is indeed what the White House is doing?
Well, I think it's fair to say that there's a frustration with the US government that they don't seem, publicly at least, to be pushing the Saudis a lot harder on what happened to Jamal Khashoggi. They are saying that there is things going on behind the scenes, and certainly Mike Pompeo, the US Secretary of State, in a statement has said that they have reached out to the Saudi government at the highest levels, which would suggest that he has at least tried to, if not actually spoken to, the Saudi ambassador in the United States, who operates from this building behind me. He has said that they have no knowledge of what happened to the journalist after he left the consulate. Now, there was a gathering at the Washington Post earlier this morning. We'll come back to that. But many people who were there have moved here to the Saudi embassy, not that far away from the White House, it's got to be said. This is a small group, but they say it's important that they are here to make sure that the Saudis know that this isn't going to go away, that it's not going to disappear in the minds of the US people, because of course Khashoggi was indeed a US resident. He lived in Virginia, probably no more than 20 kilometres from where I'm standing, and now they are reading out parts of his writing that appeared in the Washington Post. Now, as I say, there was a gathering outside the newspaper in the last couple of hours, people who knew him, people who respected him, people who worked with him, and certainly from Niha Awad, who is the executive director of the Council for Islamic American Relations. Well, he was very insistent that the United States should be doing more on this issue.
We request and demand the Saudi government to give clear answers and not to evade the question. He entered the Saudi consulate and he never left. If they have a proof that he left the consulate alive, they should share it with us. Until now, we have not seen concrete, convincing evidence that he left the consulate and he is alive. So the burden of the proof lies squarely on the Saudi officials.
Now, there may not be many people here lunchtime on a Wednesday in the centre of Washington, D.C., but I can tell you, just behind our camera, there are a number of people watching, and this is exactly what the organisers here, Code Pink among them, you'll remember them as anti-war protesters who've disrupted a number of Senate hearings over the last few years. Well, they are here as well, and they're saying that the people stopping are just as important as the people standing there, because they're raising awareness of Jamal Khashoggi's case. They want the American people to ask questions of their elected representatives. They want the American government to do a lot more. They believe that the Saudis should not be allowed just to use their very close relationship with the White House to push away questions, but there has to be answers, and they say they'll continue to come back here to this point in Washington, D.C. to make sure that the Saudis are held to account, to provide their story of what they say happened to Jamal Khashoggi, and if it doesn't match up with what they are being told by the Turks, that there is a full international inquiry, and if he was killed, then those responsible are brought to justice.
Alan Fisher outside that protest in Washington, D.C. Alan, thank you.